Hello everyone, to those who have tuned in to listen to the today's podcast. In the today digital world, most important is your digital identity. And specifically with the AI, we are watching a lot of news around how deep fakes are moving around and impacting your day-to-day life. And this is not just with the individuals, but also with the big business. There are a lot of frauds being happening. People are taking your identity and using it for the wrong reasons. And then there are good people trying to protect your identity, trying to do the KYC, trying to do the KYB, and making sure that the customers and business, when they are connected in the right spirit. To talk about the same KYC, talk about the identity, how AI is shaping up this whole space. Today we have Jay Dembani with us. Jay works for HyperVerge. He has been in the space of digital KYC and compliances for more than 2 decades. So let's speak with Jay and understand. So let's start. Hi,
Thanks a
Jay.
lot.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Manoj, for inviting me. It's pleasure to be here.
Sure. Jay, thank you so much for taking time on the Sunday morning to discuss this very, very important topic around the identity. So, Jay, let's break down from the very, very basics. When we talk about the identity, like if I go out to open my bank account or to do anything, bank ask about my identity. Until yesterday, it was just my Aadhaar card or PAN card. But very recently, I have been also been asked to do my video KYC.
Yeah,
So if you can start from there, Jay, like because you've seen a shift when there were
yeah.
no documents specifically in India. Now there are some documents. Everyone is having at least one document. And now we are moving to the video KYC. What has been the shift? Why now already I have the document. Why I need to do the video KYC? What is that thing that I do not know and you know as an expert?
That's a wonderful question, Manoj. See, when we talk about the identity of the individual, right, as we were talking backstage, identity of the individual is basically it's a proof of your verification, proof of your presence. Whenever we are the specific use case, right, whenever you are talking about an individual, who is applying for bank account, and there is element of financial transaction that is going to be channeled via that bank account, it's very important for us to establish the trust between the bank as an entity and the individual who is going to be the customer of the bank. Any
Hmm.
business would want to do business with the individuals or the businesses which are verified, because
Hmm.
there is an element of finance which is involved. There is money which is involved. You would want to, give money or lend money to an individual who is being completely verified, and you are sure that your money is going to come back. So
Hmm.
now, back in the days, the identity verification was very simple, as you've rightly said. In last 10 years or so, this whole momentum around Aadhaar, we have seen it. But back in the prior to, pre 2014, entire Geo and Aadhaar era, whenever you had to open a bank account, you have to go it in person. Still, you do that. But your presence itself over there, a passport size photo and a bank form would have sufficed. Right? And then
Hmm.
there is a relationship between you and individual who is your bank account holder, who is your bank manager. You are going there every week to take out money, getting your passbook updated manually. So there was a verification, there was a trust which was already existing, so that it not required. But over a period of time, as with the advent of the technology, the advent of the penetration of the banking, right? Especially why I'm talking about 2014 is that after that, Jan Dhan, account got started, right? So many people were willingly, or, with the help of government, were, opening their bank accounts. So the volume of the people, right, which were coming onto the banks, to get their bank accounts open increased exponentially. Now, it was very difficult for a simple your basic relationship manager to manage so many people if all of them are coming to open the bank account, right? And that relationship of one to one, right? I know Manoj knows me. He comes, every week to withdraw some money, have their passbooks updated manually, talk about everything apart from, in addition to your bank account and how's the market and their families, and the exchange of thoughts, right? But you can do it on
Okay.
one to one basis. But when you have got hundreds of people, barging into the bank to open their bank accounts because, any type of direct debit scheme, any type of government scheme that will be flowing to these individuals will be via bank accounts, it became simply untenable. It became simply difficult for banks, to, do this back in the old days. Also, when the volume is so high, right? But you also have to ensure that you are compliant. you have to follow the regulations, you have to do the you have to verify the individual. So the another vector of the technology which came is Aadhaar, which is UIDI, our identity proof. Not just that, but you have to verify that individual, right? So there's a lot of element of technology. You can take somebody's. How do I verify that? Manoj's Aadhaar is the same Manoj who's standing in front of me. You might have made his Aadhaar say 10 years or 15 years ago. The faces changed. You evolve as an individual. I was not having beards back in the day, right? In my Aadhaar, but now I sport beard, right? So how do you verify that individual, right? So there's a lot of regulatory pressure also to have verified individuals in the ecosystem, avoid any kind of frauds. So that's where this overall evolution is taking place.
Got it. No, no, I think that was a brilliant insight because I always used to think like what would have changed, why we're getting into the video. But I think with the example you just explained, because of volume, what's happening right now and what was happening earlier, that makes a lot of sense. Because if I go to, and I think like you rightly said, when I used to go to bank with my father or with any of my elders, they would know them directly by the name because it was the
Yeah.
branch. And now it's not impossible. It's not possible. I'm pretty sure my relationship manager, for him, I'm just a name or a phone number.
To a
I don't think
customer
I have
ID.
ever met him.
You don't even have a phone number, largely considering you're just a customer ID which pops up in the CRM,
Yes.
and they get a scheduled a reminder that they have to send out a message to you that whether you are doing okay or not, and if there is a new fund which is coming which they would want you to invest, or if there is a new FD rates updates, so on and henceforth. It's very transactional these days.
It's a very transactional these days. So let me ask you a dumb question here now,
Yeah,
because see, we talked about so many digital data points, but still, uh, if I try to take a high ticket value loan, I'm not talking about the small 50,000 1 lakh.
yeah.
Though there is so much of digital data, and I think everything is connected to my PAN card, be it my salary, be it by my shareholdings, be it my insurance, be it buying a car because the TDS gets deducted. If everything is connected to the PAN card, and there are so many digital data points, why still bank ask me so many documents which they can, I think, directly fetch by themselves, even without coming to me? Then because I'm just trying to understand from the end user point of view, because everything, specifically at our side, because we are salaried, we don't have a choice but rather to do everything online. We only do money within the bank account or via UPI or whatsoever, and everything is there with the PAN card connected. In this case, and they already have my bureau score as well. They have already done some revelation, checked my credit card score and everything. Why do they still ask me so many of data points which they might have already have received? Are they just trying to connect the story, or what is it? Is it something like end user like us do not understand?
See, you have to understand. No, it's a very good question, right? So see, there is something called regulations, right? There's something called guidelines, which
Yeah.
they have to follow irrespective of caste, creed, or color. So Manoj, in his own right, might have all the documents available to him, might have all the communications with the bank, but doesn't mean that he's above the regulations, right? So that's one thing you have to consider, that when they're designing the regulation, they're not designing for a particular set of class of the individual. They're designing it for everyone. So Manoj might be having a
Mm.
relationship with bank, but anyone who is a customer, new to credit, or it's a new customer who has never taken a loan, they would have to go through this process. Now you cannot have two set of processes, considering the volume and the scale at which India has got the population, the Indian population has this, right?
Yeah, got it.
So it's not possible to have different set of rules. But what is where the digital savvy banks and lenders to score a point is that they have got all the sophisticated set of database management in place, and while you are there, they know you, right? So they know you. They have got all the data points available. You already have an existing relationship, so the process of the underwriting becomes faster. So any
Got it.
individual who would have taken 7 days to get an account onboarded, or account and open, because you're already an existing customer, it reduces to 2 days or 1 day. But you cannot skirt around the compliance because it's mandatory, it's regulation.
Got it. Got it. So
So
you're
that's
saying there's
why,
a standard SOP,
yeah,
irrespective of where do you stand in your life, that is something bank follows
yeah.
because that's how the regulation has been designed.
Exactly. That's how, and regulation is important because, see, I mean, like the There are multiple factors which are at play, Manoj. If we go back to the first example we talked about, where it was so simple going to the bank. I still remember my dad also going to a Dena bank, then opening the account with the bank per se. Having this relationship with managers and so on and henceforth. But over a period of time, there are multiple vectors. There are multiple players which have come into the equation. UPI and the whole digital push by the government to push through the digital transaction. That's one, the ecosystem change which has happened. Over a
Mm.
period of time, the profile of the customers has also changed. A new class of bank account holders have come into picture. So the Gen Zs and Gen Xers of sorts who are getting into the bank account system, they don't want to go to bank. They would
Yeah.
want to do the things digitally. Then you have got a class of, a strata of the society which is not digital savvy,
Hmm.
right? Who would want some sort of a assistance, while getting them onboarded, but they also want to be part of the inclusion program and they want to be included in the economy. Create a financially inclusive society. You have to design a system which is fairly equitable, democratic, accessible. Not being partial to everyone or anyone. You just have to create a level playing field. That's how you create an inclusive society. So that's why the regulations are there in place. You also have to ensure that being a regulator, you also have to ensure that there are, the fraudulent actors, the bad actors, which can basically harm the economy and eventually to the citizens of the country. We have to keep those bad actors out. So it's a very catch up, it's a very fine line between convenience and compliance, right? That's
Got
which
it.
a
Got it.
regulator, which all the regulatory entities have to tread through.
Got it, got it. No, I think that's a very, very fair point, because I think what happens most of times when we approach to the bank or any digital organization as an individual, we are always thinking from the customer mindset that why so many questions are being asked. But I think the way you clarified it, because that's the SOP, that's the inclusion way, that's the regulator way of doing it, looking everyone from the same lens so that
Yeah,
no one gets left behind. Now, I
true.
think with all your experience with you have been in the industry for like close to 2 decades now. Do you have any incident on the top of your mind, any funny or any serious, any strange incident that has happened with you in the industry around compliance or around the verification, that it's like like it's very much fresh in your memory, that you want to share with us?
Okay, so plenty of incidents, because so just to give you a scale at which we operate, right? We have processed more than billion identity verification in last 2.5 years or so. So if you take at this point, our products have been designed to verify like almost 1/6 or 1/7 or whatever 1/8 of the world population. Right? So that's the scale at which you operate. Now, in that case, when you are building the systems for that scale, you will find all sorts of use cases, right? You have to be ready as to what people may come up. Some people will put up the mask, right? And some people will, try to circumnavigate the system, right? So your systems are always catching up for the fraudsters. So one of the few incidents which are very common occurrence, if you have got somebody who is not a serious borrower, right, who enters into the ecosystem with an idea to fraud. Right? So when they are getting onboarded, they will post their nude pictures, right? So that you are not able to, verify them. They will, use someone else's face to morph. They will use mask. And some of the cases where we have seen in some of the insurance cases, and it's a very common thing, it has also been noted in the media that people are claiming or insurance on the name of dead people. That individual is not there. Somebody, took a picture of the dead body, so they were able to pass some of the liveness checks and take a loan on the or insurance or any sort of financial instrument in the name of a dead person. Because you have to understand that the follow-up checks regarding the death certificate, not every state has got a digital death certificate database, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So how will
yeah.
you track that individual, whether that some person who's staying 1,800 miles away from you in some corner of the country who has taken a loan, whether he's alive or not, or she's alive or not? Somebody takes a picture because Aadhaar, identity, everything is there. You just take a picture, take a 10,000 loan and run away with it. Because that person is no more, right? So that adds to the books of the lender, right? It's a non-performing asset. But the focus is on growth, right? So we have to acquire as many.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
So I
a
think I think
constant tussle.
it's a constant tussle. No, I think I can understand, because in this growth phase, and specifically if you look from the business point of view, the 10,000 might not look a bigger risk. It's like, okay, 10,000, even if you lose it, that doesn't look like a bigger risk. But if I multiply by 10,000 by 100, if like 100 of people are doing that, that becomes a big non-performing asset for any of the company, and that can hurt a growth for a big time, Jay. Yeah, and I think this was a very deep incident. I never thought about that. Even the dead bodies are being used to do this kind of fraud.
Yeah, yeah, as long as because again, it's a fraudster, right? So some of the
Yeah, there
funny
are no
cases.
emotions attached.
Yeah, some of the funny cases which we have seen is the identity of a person was submitted, let's say, and then later on a whale was used, right? So when the identity was submitted, there was a woman, and when the individual came for the VKYC, there was a whale. So behind that there was a man, right? So you see, identity of some individual is getting submitted, and the person who is getting verified under the veil is someone else, right? So it becomes very difficult. How do you verify the individual from the eyes or limited set of features which are available there? It's very difficult. So now again, same is with beard, without beard, turban, without turban, all sorts of geographical dimensions which are there in a country like us, which is very diverse, right? It becomes imperative for us to ensure the agenda of the financial inclusion, but compliant all the times. Because somewhere, these numbers are getting reported, somewhere, the books are getting reported, and your growth, your further, business growth plans are aligned to that. So it's a
Yes,
constant,
yes.
it's a catch 22,
Exactly.
damn you do, damn you don't, kind of, line which you have to tread.
Yeah, I think so. It's like the system is getting smarter and the fraudsters are getting more smarter. So Jay, with that, now what's happening at the HyperVerge? Because I think what's happening at that side of the world, because HyperVerge is a market leader when it comes to the verification of the individuals and business.
Yeah.
How AI is helping you guys? What are the new initiatives that AI has helped you to take, specifically from the business point of view, Jay?
It's a wonderful question, Manoj. So, so just to give you a background, right? So, people have started talking about AI now with the advent of OpenAI and Gen AI and everything that has
Uh,
happened in last 3 years. There's so much of funding and investment, but we have been an AI company since our inception. So, we were incubated in IIT Madras, right? A computer vision group of IIT Madras. So, we are sort of an old hand at AI. We started off with the face verification that requires you to capture the image of the individual. So we did this capturing of the identity documents. So we have always been in that space, which by default uses a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we have processed so much of data by the virtue of our customers, which we have onboarded. We have always been in this space. So when people talk about Gen AI and AI, this is something we have been at it for a long time now, right?
mhm.
So now what we are seeing is that since we have been at it, it allows us to boost that aspect of ours. So the more and more data, the more and more fraudsters are coming, our systems are becoming smarter. So that way, our systems, which were already, one of the best in the world, are now extrapolated to a next level altogether because the quality of frauds which we are encountering is also scaled up. So that
Yeah,
allows us to, there's always a thing that, how to protect it. So there is
yeah,
always a tussle in terms how do you do a one level up on the fraudster. So that allows us to utilize our core element of AI. But apart from that, obviously there is an element of technology,
yeah,
OpenAI and Claude, and there is so much of the LLMs, the overall technology aspect which is improving because we're already AI company. Our transition to a Gen AI element or any next level of technology that comes is very seamless because
yeah.
our genes, we are genetically AI company. So it's not that we were not an AI company. Now we have to become an AI company. We were AI company. Now we are becoming AI plus plus plus. It is happening, at the speed of the thought because it comes natural to us.
Got it.
That's
Got it.
where
Got it.
our genes are.
If you can just share one number, only if you're allowed to, let's say the kind of cases or the number of cases you Hyperverse processes in a calendar year, what are the percentage of frauds you catch? Like, do you have any percentage that only if you're allowed to share that data?
Uh, to be honest, I don't have that number handy because it varies from use case to use case. Right? So
Yeah.
but it's a good data point which I can, take back to my engineering team and ask them to come up with this matrix. It would be good to talk about along with 1 billion plus, onboardings which we have done in last 2 years.
Yeah.
Some of the cases like, it varies, right? So if you are able to identify a fraudster right at the time of onboarding itself, that
Mm-hmm.
number would be depending upon the kind of the customer base that is getting onboarded.
Hmm.
So if you are onboarding a salaried class, the number of frauds are going to be less because, as I said,
Yeah,
again going back to the same point that there are already lot many data points which are available. So,
yeah.
if that is ETC, that is existing customer,
Hmm.
existing to credit, and then there is a new to credit, right? So in the case of the new to credit, because if there is no other way to verify that individual, they will submit the data points which might not be accurate. So the frauds in those cases might be high. Again, what kind of a product that is being sold, right? Whether the money is given or whether the money is getting collected,
Hmm.
different sorts, different combinations. So there is no one number to
Hmm.
answer your question, but certainly our frauds, because our tech stack is one of the best in the world, is what I can say, and that's why the number of frauds are going to be less. But it's not something that there are no zero frauds. There
Yeah,
are
yeah,
frauds.
that's
It
not
is I don't have
possible.
a
That's
number
not
in place.
possible.
I don't have a number in place to answer your question, but just to give you the extent of our stability, or in terms of the scale, the quality of the product, we were
Hmm.
in the month of February, we were awarded as one of the best face match and liveness systems in the world by the US Department of Homeland Security. So there was an internal, sort of a competition. They keep on inviting the companies who can beat their standards or who can meet their standards. HyperVerge was in the month of February. Yes, in the month of February, we were recognized as the only player who were meeting their standards. So that speaks volumes about the quality of the product and the platform which we are building. I'm not saying
Got
we are
it.
zero fraud. Yes, there are always false positive and false negatives which
Yeah,
will
yeah,
creep through the system,
100%.
but the number is certainly going to be less than the incumbents.
Got it, got it. No, actually, because my questions are always around the numbers because from the curiosity point of view, because, again, building in the AI space, when I try to sell Narad.io to my customers, I always try to give them the number reference. And so I was just getting curious about that.
See, the average, the overall average, the weighted average is something, I don't have the handy with, because I said the variety of the use cases,
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
right?
I
And
understand
then there
that
are
because
multiple.
I think,
So when we say about, identifying the individual, there are various elements of the products that get used, right? So when you are identifying the individual, there is an element of OCR, then there is an element of face match, then there is an element of liveness, which is different from. So while I'm onboarding the customer, there are multiple products of HyperVerse which are getting plugged in. So the
hmm,
fraud rate, the customer drop-offs at every stage is going to be different. So and
yeah,
then on the top of it, you multiply it with the sectors, right? InsurTech is there. We have got insurance customers, we have got gaming customers, we have got wealth tech. So then there are
yeah.
multiple customers, multiple products to arriving at a cumulative average, a weighted average is still difficult, but I'll take this as a follow-up action from this podcast, and I'll check with my engineering team if you have got these numbers or not.
See, there's one point you just talked about, and I think that sparked another question here. You said a word, the drop off. Now, if you can just, very, very briefly, like very quickly, if you can explain that because of so many verifications getting happen and 100% you are not doing, your customer has asked you and you are doing all this verification on the behalf of your customer. Has any point of time customer has come back to you or you yourself, your team has realized that the drop-offs have increased because of this verification and then the customer would have told you, can you just remove at least one of it because this is not helping rather than I'm not getting a business because of this value. Has it happened at any time?
No, that's a wonderful, and it keeps on happening, to be honest, right? Because again, as I said, our objective whenever we enter into any conversation with the customer is that what is the core problem, what is keeping you up at night from a business perspective, right?
Hmm.
And as I said, India from an insurtech perspective, or from a credit perspective, is under-penetrated. From a wealth management point of view, is under-penetrated. So if I
Hmm.
am a founder of a wealth tech company or an insurtech company, my job is to see, or my north star is to acquire as many as customers I can, in a
Hmm.
compliant manner. Having said that, in a compliant manner, to follow the regulations and ensure that the right actors get into the system. But when we do that, there is a possibility the more number of checks you introduce, the customer might drop off. The less
Yeah.
number of you do, the fraudster will get in. So it's always
Hmm.
a tussle. So when we get onto a table, right, whenever we launch any product of ours or whenever we onboard any customer, our approach is largely around that, what is your North Star? What are you trying to achieve? Is
Yeah.
it about the retention aspect? Is it about the acquisition aspect? 9%, 95% of the cases, it's all about acquisition, right? It's
Yeah.
pre-onboarding stage. Now, if it is the customer drop-offs, what is the existing customer drop-offs as of today? If it's X%, in the next 90 days, we'll take up the task on ourselves saying that, we'll reduce the number of drop-offs, right, by this percent. And how will we do that? By introducing these checks, right, which are so seamless in nature, that your customer will not, face any sort of friction. And how do we do that? We do that by creating these onboarding flows, which are seamlessly embedded while the customer is getting onboarded. Then, because the scale, as I said, the quality of the technology, the quality of the products which we build are battle tested at scale. And when you do
Hmm.
that, you do it in a minimal amount of time. The customer overall turnaround time, or the onboarding time, reduces by X percentage, and hence you are able to reduce the drop-offs generally, because they have to go through the hoops. Like, you cannot skip. If the DigiLocker check is required, it is required. If the CKYC is required,
Yeah.
required. But within that technology aspect, how you can improve the turnaround time is where our excellence come into picture. That if X is taking X minutes to do the CKYC, how we can reduce. Now, that's one is the back-end aspect of it, right? The other is the front end aspect of it. So we have got, a team of product managers who sit with the customers to understand, how we can reduce the flow. How can we be creatively compliant, by not skipping the hoops, but
Hmm.
how can we design the user experience? Ensure when the OTP is coming, whether it is directly getting popped up. It's a very small innovation if you think through, right? So whenever you
Hmm.
apply, or when you are onboarding a customer, what if the OTP directly, pushes to your app itself rather than you copying it from your SMS? Because that's a time loss. Sometimes OTP doesn't come, or if it is OTP, there are multiple OTPs which are coming. And then, from a workflow perspective. So once you've entered into the system, there any not every customer has to go through a workflow. Depending upon the loan size, you can design the workflow. Less than 50% number of checks,
Yeah.
less than 50K, these are the number of the checks which are required. And
Got
more
it.
than 50K, these are the number of the checks. So we do this lot of consulting aspect just to ensure, because our goal is what the customer's goal is. How do we ensure that the number of drop-offs are reducing in the first quarter itself since the time they have been onboarded with us? And how do we do it in a compliant manner? So there is a lot of
Got it.
consulting aspect that gets into picture, a lot of product management, user experience aspect that gets into picture when we design the product for the customer.
Got it.
So it's not just like, you buy some APIs from us and that's it, you plug in it. We will, consult you what is the best. And because we work with close to 350 plus fintechs and banks across the globe. So it's a collective intelligence that, our platform gets feed in on. We have been exposed to. And that's where, we use our experience, like what has worked, what has not worked. Like, we have got a substantial customer base in Southeast Asia. Got we are getting into the other markets as well. So there's a lot of learning which is funneling back to our
Got it.
product stack, and that's how we are making it is intelligent. So overall, we try to reduce, yes, customer drop-offs are challenge, and they will continue to remain challenge. We ensure that how we can reduce them.
Yes, yes. So HyperVerge is doing the KYC, is doing the verification, but at the same time, you're also keeping a check on the customers do not get dropped off. And I think also, like you rightly said, like every business has a different metrics to look at. Someone who is in the growth mode might not want the customers dropping off, or for someone who's already achieved a certain number, for him or for that kind of a business, it would be like, okay, give me the right set of a data. And I think the one point you just said, because HyperVerge provides that the seamless experience, the customer might not even feel like that he's going through a check,
Yeah,
because the kind of UI UX has been done by your team and the consulting and the
yeah.
handholding that your team provides. Superb, Jay. So I think there was a lot of insight around the finances, around the KYC, inclusion, how the background checks are getting done, and how the HyperVerge is doing. So Jay, now before we move towards the end of the conversation, is there any quick advice that you would like to give to any youngster who's trying to enter into this whole compliance field and looking at it as a career? Just a very quick advice. What should be in the head of a person if someone's trying to get into it?
I think where the entire fintech or finance product management differs from the other product management is that you have to think about compliance right from the beginning. You have to be, when you are designing a product for any banking or any space, if you've got your customers who are sitting outside India selling it to the US market, you have to go through all these compliance. So compliance,
Hmm.
if you have to understand the cost of compliance, try being non-compliant and see what happens. Because companies are vanished, right? One product where you have not taken into consideration the compliant way, whether you're not GDPR compliant or now with DPDPA, right?
Yeah.
So I will say, when you design a product, especially when you are working in the regulatory space, think about compliance. Compliance should never be an afterthought. It should always be a precursor to whatever you build. Right? So
Yeah,
any
yeah,
product you design, you have to understand the nuances of taking the PII of the individual. Just because you are operating in India doesn't mean that absolves you from any other compliance aspect. No, you have to think too. So how do you marry compliance with convenience, with the customer experience overall? And I've coined a term called creatively compliant. How do you ensure that your customer is getting onboarded, your customer experience is top notch, but at the same time you are following all the regulations which are there? It's a very tough path to follow, but always strive for that because it pays in the long run. It pays in the long run. Don't use shortcuts. You are operating in the regulatory space. You are dealing with people's identity, money. Your product is dealing with that. So it's better to be safe and build for the long term. Right? It's not about building something on a short-term basis and then vanishing. It's about building brands. It's about building products that last beyond your time. So
got
that's
it,
all.
got it.
You have to be always be compliant. Compliance should be the first thing in your mind when you design a product for the regulatory domain.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Jai. So if you're a youngster, trying to build a career in compliance, think long term. Don't think of a short term career because like Jai also said that if you really want to know the cost of being non-compliant, or try to bring the cost of the compliant, just try becoming non-compliant once and then you will understand. Thank you so much, Jai, for sharing all those thoughts with us and spending more than an hour with us to record this. I know we have been doing a lot of back and forth. I really appreciate this because I think all those insights that you gave us will help a lot of individuals who are trying to understand this space and looking forward to many more conversations in the future.
Sure. Thanks. It's pleasure. Thanks a lot, Manoj.